Back in 2014, the SEC went through a difficult time in the postseason, and there was thought around the country that maybe the Pac-12 had displaced the SEC, considering the demise of the SEC Eastern Division in recent years and the West not performing to expectations. Maybe the Pac-12 had become the best conference in college football. Every offseason here on Mark Rogers TV, we review the conference performance against the rest of the Power Five. We break it down in regards to seeding and results. That's what matters, the results on the field. So the recruiting rankings, the NFL draft picks, all that is nice to talk about. But what it comes down to is results against each other on the field in the Pac-12. At that point, at 13-6, and beyond that, the quality wins played the best on the field for 2014. Dropped back last year. The SEC retook control of not dominance, but at least first place standing here on Mark Rogers TV, at least. So we talked about in our first two segments looking at the Big 12 and the ACC that not all the non-conference games have been played. Certainly the postseason is going to have a lot to do with what the rankings look like next offseason. But for right now, it's fun to do. Let's do it. Let's look at the conferences. We've ranked the Big 12 at number 5, the ACC at number 4. Closely in front of the ACC at this point would be the Pac-12. 6-6 right now against the other Power 5 conferences, 23-9 overall. Let's look at the big games. Cal defeated Texas. Texas at the point of that game was the kind of banner carrier in the Big 12 trying to get to a college football playoff. That seems to be no more at this point. Big win for the Pac-12 there. Utah over BYU by 1 point. Nice win. Arizona State defeats Texas Tech. UCLA over BYU. Really no monumental wins. Nothing close to what the Big Ten has produced, for example, in a few SEC games. So defeating BYU twice, Texas Tech, and Texas, that's what the Pac-12 has to go on right now. Otherwise, it's USC getting blown out by Bama. A loss to Bama, no shame in that. USC probably the 4th, 5th, 6th best team in the Pac-12, losing to most likely the best team in the SEC, if not the country, but getting blown out by 46 points. UCLA loses a close one at Texas A&M. Again, let's examine. Preseason, UCLA considered possibly the best team in the Pac-12, probably second or third best, losing to a Texas A&M team that the jury's still out on, but appears to be 5th, 6th, something in that range in the SEC. Not a great loss, but it was on the road in overtime. BYU defeats Arizona. No shame in that. Arizona not one of the big players in the Pac-12 right now. Oregon loses to Nebraska, much because of the Mark Helfrich 2-point conversion strategy. All right, so any great wins? No. A couple decent wins. Bad losses? On paper, Cal should not lose to San Diego State, but this is one of the top teams in the Power 5, or in the group of 5, defeating a mid-level Pac-12 team. Not a huge issue there. Wazoo does what it typically does. It loses to an FCS school in Eastern Washington. Near misses. Arizona State almost lost to Texas San Antonio. That would have been near disastrous for a team that is on the fringe of the top 25 right now. 2 big games against Notre Dame upcoming, the traditional matchups against USC and against Stanford. So that will tell us a lot. Notre Dame maybe not quite as good as we predicted or anticipated preseason. Still a quality team, still one of the 15 or 20 best teams in college football, despite the 1-2 start. Oregon State's got a matchup with Boise State. They'll be a decided underdog in that game. The Pac-12, in recent years, vying for the best conference title in America, off to a rough start. No significant wins. 6-6, 23-9 overalls. That's 6-6 against the other Power 5 conferences. Big games upcoming against Notre Dame, and really the postseason is going to tell us if the Pac-12 has arrived back to the top spot. It is definitely the deepest of the conferences and the most even, on an even playing field. Once you get past Stanford in particular, throw them up in the air and bring down Washington, Oregon, USC, UCLA, and the like. Utah as well. Big matchup against USC this week. It's the Pac-12, third best conference based on results on the field right now on Mark Rogers TV.